A crab is standing perfectly still on the seafloor, holding two living stinging animals in its claws. It's not eating them. It's not fighting them. It's holding them up, like a boxer waiting for the bell. And if you reach toward this crab, it will not run. It will not hide. It will swing both of those animals directly toward your hand. This is a real crab. Those are real, living sea anemones. And this crab has figured out something that most predators on Earth never bothered to try. Why grow your own weapon when you can just pick one up? Meet the boxer crab. Each one carries a small sea anemone in each claw, gripped tight, tentacles out, stingers ready. Anything that gets too close gets a face full of venom. Courtesy of an animal the crab didn't even have to evolve. But here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. If a boxer crab loses one of its anemones, say in a fight with another crab, it doesn't go find a replacement. It rips its remaining anemone clean in half. Sea anemones can regenerate from a fragment, so the crab ends up with two functional weapons again, grown from one. Genetic studies have confirmed the pair a crab carries are identical clones, torn from a single original. Here's the strange part scientists are still puzzling over. Anemones removed from a crab's grip and left to grow freely balloon dramatically larger than the tiny ones crabs are seen carrying. Researchers suspect the crab may be limiting its anemone's growth somehow, possibly by controlling how much food reaches them, though the exact mechanism hasn't been confirmed. And no wild free-living population of this exact anemone species has ever been documented. Which raises a question marine biologists genuinely can't answer yet. If the ones we find are always in a crab's claws, where did the very first one come from? The boxer crab found a weapon and never let go. So far, every animal we've seen still has to do the dangerous part itself. This next animal doesn't carry its weapon. It recruits another predator and hunts beside it. On coral reefs, a fish called the coral grouper has a hunting problem. It's fast in open water, but prey constantly escapes by diving into narrow cracks in the reef where the grouper's body simply can't fit. So the grouper does something almost no fish on Earth is known to do. It goes and gets help. It swims to a moray eel, a long, muscular predator that can slither into any crevice on the reef, and it performs a very specific signal. A rapid shaking headstand, body pointed directly at the crack where the prey is hiding. Researchers have measured this. When a grouper performs that signal near a moray, the eel joins the hunt 58% of the time. That's far more than chance would predict. That's a fish walking up to another predator and pointing. The moray surges into the crevice, the prey bolts out in a panic, and the grouper, who was just standing by, waiting exactly where the fish would flee to, swallows it whole. And this is where our definition of a weapon starts getting uncomfortable. Because the moray isn't being controlled, it isn't tricked, and it isn't a hostage. It benefits too. It gets fed just as often as the grouper does. Scientists are still debating whether this counts as genuine teamwork or something simpler. But groupers do remember which morays are good at this, and they go back to the same partners again and again. Is that a weapon or a coworker? The next animal takes the idea somewhere much darker. Meet the assassin bug. Specifically, the nymph stage, which spends its whole life doing something that sounds more like a horror movie than biology. It kills ants. And then it stacks their bodies on its own back. Up to 20 dead ants at a time, glued into a clump, carried around like a grim little backpack for the rest of its juvenile life. You'd assume this is meant to scare something off. It's not. It's camouflage. Jumping spiders are one of this bug's biggest threats, and jumping spiders, for reasons of their own, tend to leave ants alone. So the assassin bug builds itself a costume made entirely of corpses, breaking up its outline until it barely reads as an insect at all, and it works. In controlled trials, decorated nymphs were attacked far less often than nymphs with the corpse pile removed. Give the bug its pile of bodies back, and the spiders hesitate, back off, or simply move on. Wait, so this bug survives by wearing its victims like a disguise? Yes. And here's the detail that makes it stranger. Once these bugs mature into adults, they stop doing this completely. They shed the habit along with their final molt, which means something about this specific vulnerable stage of life. And only this stage makes wearing the dead worth it. The boxer crab carries a living weapon. The grouper recruits a willing partner. This bug wears its enemies as a corpse shield. But the next animal isn't satisfied borrowing a weapon or even wearing one. It steals an entire workforce. Meet the slave-making ant. Certain species, like Polyergus, can't even feed themselves. They physically cannot forage, clean their own nest, or raise their own young. Every single task in their colony is done by workers from a completely different species. So how do they get workers? They raid. Slave-making colonies launch coordinated attacks on neighboring nests, storming in, overwhelming the defenders, and hauling off the one thing they actually came for: the brood. The eggs, the larvae, the pupae. A single colony can steal thousands of pupae like this in a season, sometimes devastating entire host colonies nearby. Here's the part that sounds impossible. Those stolen pupae hatch inside the raider's nest, and they grow up recognizing that nest by its scent, the same way any ant recognizes home. As far as their biology is concerned, this is simply where they're from. They start working immediately, foraging, nursing, defending, for the very species that took them as infants. Some slave-making queens don't even need a raid to get started. They sneak into a host nest alone, using chemical camouflage to smell harmless or close enough to the host queen's scent, walking straight past guards who should be killing her on sight. And occasionally, the system breaks. In laboratory colonies, enslaved workers have been documented turning on the parasite's brood, destroying much of the next generation before it can mature. Scientists are still working out exactly what triggers this. So far, every animal we've seen still needed the other species to be capable of doing something useful on its own. Fighting, hunting, working. This final animal takes something that was never a weapon, never a soldier, and builds one from scratch. Meet the parasitoid wasp, and the caterpillar it turns into a sentry. The wasp lays up to 80 eggs inside a single caterpillar. For weeks, the caterpillar keeps eating, keeps growing, completely unaware it's being used as a nursery. Eventually, the wasp larvae chew their way out and spin themselves into a cluster of cocoons, right there on the caterpillar's back. At this point, biology says the story should be over. The host has been used up. It should die. Instead, the caterpillar stops eating completely, stands guard over the cocoons, and starts violently swinging its head at anything that gets close. Wait, it's still alive after that? Yes. Studies have shown pupae guarded by a living caterpillar survive roughly twice as often as unguarded ones. Predators that approach get physically knocked back by a caterpillar that has absolutely nothing left to gain from any of it. Researchers found that one or two larvae sometimes stay behind inside the caterpillar after the others emerge. Whether those remaining larvae cause the guarding behavior directly, or whether something introduced earlier rewires the host's nervous system before they even leave, is still unresolved. The caterpillar gets nothing. No reward, no survival, no future. Within days it dies, having spent its final week of life defending the offspring of the thing that killed it from the inside. Humans invented weapons because our bodies weren't enough. Nature figured out something stranger. If your body isn't enough, use somebody else's.